Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. Today, I have an incredible guest for you. Her name is Mikaela Kate Schaefer. She's a leadership trainer, speaker, and a coach. She has over 15 years of experience in developing men and women leaders from college age and beyond. She trains teams from 5 to 200, as well as countless one-on-one coaching experiences. She's the CEO of her own personal and professional coaching and training business, where she works with the manufacturing and retail industry, the financial and legal sector, startup businesses, and with various independent sales teams. And the way I know her is we work together coaching veterinarians. So I'm delighted to have her on the podcast today.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mikaela.
Yeah, thank you, Julie. It's been a joy getting to know you the past couple years, and
Yeah. How long has it been? 2 years?
I know I was thinking that it's
I think this
probably
summer,
at
maybe.
least,
I think I
yeah,
started with you in
that's fast.
July, and
Yep.
so it'll be 2 years this summer. Yeah, it's gone by fast,
Yeah.
but it's been fun to work with you. So we
Yeah.
finally got you on the podcast.
Excited to be. I know, I've been a fan from afar, and now I get it up close and personal.
I
Yeah.
know. I don't know why we never did it before, but we'll probably do it
Yeah,
again. So this probably
for
won't be
sure.
the
We'll
first and
see.
last
We'll see
last
how it
time.
goes.
Yeah,
I
we'll
might be
see.
booted after
No,
round
I don't
one.
think so. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, first of all, let me ask you my first question because I ask this to everyone,
Sure.
is to tell me your story. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is where you started and how you got interested in what you're doing and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. Well, grew up in Iowa, on a farm, about 4,000 pigs, so
Oh,
not
wow, a pig farm.
not
That's
void
so
of
cool.
strong smells. But grew up in Iowa, went to Iowa State University, graduated in marketing, and had an opportunity after college to go into full-time sports marketing or full-time ministry. And so
Oh,
I love sports, all things Iowa State athletic sports, still do, but ended up going into full-time ministry. Did that for 7 years, was a part of
wow.
a church plant in Iowa City, and then after that spent 2 years in England working at a church with young adults and doing that. And then after those 2 years, I kind of got tired of the food and the accent wore on me, and I'm like, okay, time to come back to the States. So I came back here to South Carolina where my family lived, and they're like, come to the beach, figure out what you want to do next. And so I
Yeah.
came to the beach. Thought I'd be here for, a couple months till I figured it out. But I realized in that time, what I loved doing was the coaching, the training, the discipleship that I was doing in the church, and then was blessed to be a part of a lot of churches that focused on leadership development, personal coaching. And so I realized that's really what I loved. And so from there, I started my own business primarily doing one-on-one coaching. And then that kind of grew to people saying, hey, can you come work with my boss, my team? Can you fix him or her? Which that never really works, as we
Fixing the
know.
boss is
Yeah,
always difficult, right?
right, exactly. You've been there.
Yeah, I've tried
Um,
that once. It didn't work out so well for
yeah,
me.
never goes as planned. But yeah, so then here I am still at the beach in South Carolina and still growing my business and working with teams and one-on-one. And I kind of say I focus on people potential and people problems. So that's the majority of my phone calls, as probably you as well. So
That's
that's the
awesome.
long and short of it.
I
Yeah.
like that potential and problems. That's a really good way to look at it.
And then I'm not married, no kids, but I do have a 2-year-old dog, Peaches. So
Aw,
it's
Peaches, what kind of dog?
she's a little cavapoo. She's actually not planned, but she's on my mug here, if you can
Oh,
see.
cute. She's
She's the
awesome.
cutest.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And ever since I started working with vets, they're the ones that convinced me I needed a dog. So
Oh, is that
here
why
I
you got the
am.
dog?
Yeah, here I am. Don't
That's,
no regrets.
so far,
Yeah.
it's been a good decision. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
we thought today we might talk a little bit about leadership because we both are kind of in that space of
yeah.
coaching veterinary leaders. So, I'll ask you this question and then I'll try to chime in as
Sure.
well. But what
Yeah,
are you and I seeing? What are we seeing as some of the primary problems, since a lot of
sure.
times that's what we're coaching on, and the issues that they're having in their leadership in the hospitals, those
Yeah.
kind of things. What do you think those are?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I think thinking about the question, we're post, I'd say post COVID.
Yes.
People are in a different place, but I'd say one thing that does come to mind is burnout or the ability to kind of handle stress or know how to deal with stress. Um, And then kind of, I'd say all within that is your own personal kind of self-awareness of knowing your personality, knowing how you handle stress, what works for you, what doesn't. I throw in as well, like what season of life you're in and giving, like, it's primarily a women-dominated field of
Yes.
giving yourself grace and empathy that like you're not in a season to be running a marathon right now, right? Like I had a call the other day with someone who um 3 young kids at home, trying to do all the things in the hospital, coming home to the time, like even now, right? We're both fighting colds, so
Yeah, we
kids are
both have
fighting it.
colds.
Right. Sorry, everybody. But, and then she's got these aspirations, which are great, but helping her kind of see that's maybe for another season, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's maybe a not now goal. Can we scale that back a bit? Because I think, and you probably see this too, of each women are just constantly tasked with wearing all the hats, family in the hospital,
Sure.
uh, how to be better delegators, how to be better people that say no, um,
Boundaries. Yeah, more boundaries.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes. So that comes to mind right away. I don't know how you're seeing that on your end or if that's
Well,
just a constant.
I think the fact that you're saying that, I mean, you're kind of saying that veterinarians are overachievers, which we are,
Yeah.
and we're
Yep.
perfectionists, and we put a lot of stress and shame on ourselves because of
Sure.
that, because we think we should be perfect at the housework and the kids and running the hospital and being the hospital leader and making all the
Yeah.
money. And like we try to wear, well, we're wearing a lot of hats, but we try to wear
Sure.
them all perfectly rather than saying,
Yeah, good point.
today I have to let the hospital go
Yeah.
because my focus is on the kids.
Sure.
Or I have to let my house be dirty today because I'm focusing on the kids or the hospital, and
Yeah.
that's all okay. And
Yeah.
I kind of experienced that when I was raising my kids, is like something's got to give
Right. Right.
and you have to prioritize. So sometimes my hospital didn't get my full attention
Sure.
because I was thinking my kids were more important. And then when my kids were grown and left, then my hospital got more attention.
Yeah.
And that's knowing that that's all okay and that
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Yes.
the end of the world if you're not perfectly managing everything. And
Yeah.
I think that's a really common thing that I coach on is
Mm-hmm.
what do you want your life to be like? And then designing that life the way you want it to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not
It's
trying
that,
to be perfect.
right. It's that classic saying of, um, now I'm lost it, but creating a life where you don't have to regularly take breaks, right? That you're not trying to escape from. Like, how do I create a life where I don't have to feel like I always need a vacation or I always
Right.
need, and I think you're right, as women, especially in this field, I find I think the one thing when I started working a lot with veterinarians was seeing how many of them have such an empathetic personality and heart,
Yes.
which makes sense, right? Because you're
Right.
giving to animals and then you're giving to your team, your family, and everyone. One, extending that empathy, like you said, to yourself, but then also not feeling like you have to do all those things. Yeah,
Perfectly.
perfectly. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Because I had a lot of shame when I was raising my kids about the fact that I was full time working,
Sure.
running a hospital, and
Sure.
my kids were sometimes in daycare, and
Yep.
sometimes towards the end of the day, I would, my son had to be picked up by 6:30, and I was still seeing a client at 6:15, and I was
Right.
freaking out, and I
Yep.
would have to ask my receptionist to go pick him up and bring him back to the hospital,
Sure.
and I had a lot of shame around that. It's like, well, I must be a bad mother because I can't go pick up my kid because somebody's
Sure.
dog's in front of me dying and I don't know what to do. I'm
Yep.
stuck. And so I think when you get into that high stress situation, it's like, okay, well, was my son really damaged by the fact that Bobby, who was a lovely human, and she was like a
Sure.
grandma, she'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I get to go pick him up," and I'd be like, "Would you please?" And I would just call the
Yeah.
daycare and say, "Bobby's picking him up for me," and
Right.
and do I have to be ashamed of that? Like, is he an okay
Right.
human now? And he is. Like, he's a full-grown married
Right.
man now,
Right.
and it didn't really damage him.
No,
Everything was
if anything,
fine.
it's that like it takes a village, and I think that's how it used to be. If
Well,
it
and
the village was all raising your kids together, and
yeah, and my
somehow
team
we,
was happy to do it, right? They were like, "Okay,
yeah,
sure, we'll help. What can we do? What can we, and if your kid's sick and you have to take a day off, then the rest of the team, picking up the slack and rather
yeah,
than, us constantly trying to be everything to everyone. And I think
yeah,
a lot of those thoughts about that we have to be perfect, that we have to do everything is
hmm,
where that stress and burnout comes from.
yeah, yeah.
It really
And
does.
probably a good question just to constantly ask is, where do I need help, and have I asked for help
Mm,
lately? Um,
absolutely.
or
Yeah.
just even daily to ask that. Um, Because, yeah, you feel, and my guess is Bobby felt more connected to you. Like,
She
whenever
loved
someone
it.
asks, right?
She
Yeah.
loved my kids and she
Right.
was happy to go pick him up and spend time with
Yeah.
him until I was
Yeah.
done working. And, so I think
Yeah.
I kind of learned that early on. I was like, if I'm going to do this and do it well, I'm going to have to cut myself some slack
Yeah.
and hire a housekeeper if I need to. If my house
Right.
is feeling overwhelming, I'll just have
Mhm.
someone come in and clean it and pay them extra money.
Yep.
Or just, take my kids to Chuck E. Cheese on my day off because I'm exhausted and I don't want to cook and they love Chuck E.
Right.
Cheese or whatever.
Exactly.
And just
Cut
being,
off Chuck E.
and I
Yeah.
try to remind my veterinary leaders when they have kids, some of your kids' best memories are at the hospital or
Right.
going to
Right.
Chuck E. Cheese, like they didn't know I was doing that just to get
Give
a
yourself a
break.
breather.
Yeah,
Right.
so they could
Right.
run loose and I didn't have to do anything,
Well, yeah,
I
Chuck
just
E. Cheese. They're
give them
living
some
life.
money and
Yeah.
they run and I can just rest for a minute.
Well, and what a
Um,
great example to have them see you, entrepreneur, running a business, like bold, powerful women mom, doing your thing,
yeah,
leading
and
the team,
I
and
think we forget that. Like we have this
yeah,
shame about being the stay-at-home mom,
uh-huh,
but I always say that had I stayed at home with my kids, I would have been a terrible mother because
sure,
I would have been unhappy.
yeah,
I would have
yeah,
been unhappy because I wanted to be a
yeah,
veterinarian. I wanted to be a hospital owner. Like that was a really big ambition of mine. And so I had to figure out a way to do both. And
yeah,
sometimes it meant letting go of the hospital. Some days I just wasn't there and we didn't make as much money. And I had to take a
yeah,
day off or a week off or whatever to be with my kids. And
yeah,
then the other part was, sometimes the kids had to come to work with me on a Sunday so I could do
sure,
paperwork and they could run around and
yeah.
play with kittens or whatever.
Yeah.
We had
Well,
lots of
right. My
kittens.
mom was a school teacher, a little different, but yeah, my best memories were like waiting after school with her and playing with the other kids that were teachers' kids,
Waiting for
and
their moms.
yeah, waiting, playing extra time on the chalkboard, like
Yeah.
it's yeah, interesting to think about. But with that empathy piece, I was thinking where I also see it show up when you talk about kind of common challenges. Well, women in general, I think that have that
Yeah.
knack for empathy, or to be over gracious, you could say, is I see it showing up in the accountability with the team, and say the
Mm.
culture, and say maybe letting things go a bit because they don't want to be, oh, so and so keeps coming in late, like, but when they're here, they're great. I don't want to be
Right.
too hard on them. And
Yes.
that empathy wears great in a lot of places than in a leadership sense. Um, almost kind of gets them in trouble or causes more issues because they're not being holding their team accountable or giving, consequences or writing people up when they need to be written up. Um,
Right.
I don't know if you see that or if that was something you
Yeah.
had to learn early on. I'm sure.
Yeah, I
Boundaries.
absolutely did. Like I absolutely kept people too long and didn't fire them when I should
Sure,
have. I absolutely
sure,
gave people too many chances. I was the stereotypical people pleaser too,
sure.
like I had,
Yep.
and I learned some lessons. Like I had a manager one time that took advantage of me severely. And I just
Right.
let it keep happening because I was friends
Right.
with her, and I kind of had
Sure.
this empathy for her and didn't really pay attention to the rest, what she was doing
What
to the
was
rest of the
right.
team.
Right.
And, so it bit me in the butt many times. So
Mm,
over the years, I learned that, sometimes it's easier to nip these things in
sure.
the bud and be a little bit more hardcore and set
Hmm.
a little bit better boundaries with not only
Yeah.
yourself, but with your team so they don't take advantage of you. And I do see
Yeah.
that when I'm coaching a lot. And what
Yeah.
helps me in my coaching is I've been through some of that and I've learned the lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
And I'm
Sure.
like, don't do what I did because
Yeah.
I was
Save your world
absolutely
of hurt.
guilty of trying to save someone, from
Yeah.
themselves. Like they were late, they were late, they were late. And I was like, you can do this, you can do this.
Right.
Some
Yep.
people just don't, and they just won't.
Yeah.
And you have
Well,
to do it for
and
the rest of
my
your team.
yeah, my favorite saying is behavior is a language. And so, people can get caught up, and myself too, of man, they have great excuses, right? Or they have young kids at home, or
Yeah.
they this and that and the other's going on,
Yes.
and you give them break after break, but I think the other thing that I see often gets missed is you focus on the individual and you want to be gracious and kind and empathetic towards them. But what often then gets missed and hurt is how it's impacting the rest of the team. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, when you talk about culture and team dynamics, you're setting a sense of like, hey, this is okay. And it impacts morale, it impacts how
Mhm.
the other leaders and team view you as a leader.
Right.
And sometimes I think people forget the ecosystem, right, of the team,
Right.
how everything affects everything. And
Yeah, so when you're trying to be gracious to one person and empathetic, you're really affecting the rest of your team in a
yeah,
negative way. And I think
right.
sometimes that's something that has to be brought to your attention. It's like, do you know what this is doing to the rest of your team and what's happening to your
Yeah,
culture if one person's always getting away with murder
right.
and then the rest of them aren't? Yeah.
Yes. Like, hey, I'm doing great, showing up on time, all the things. It matters for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
And I think part of that toxic empathy that we have, I guess, I don't know what the word
It's a
is,
good way to put it. Yeah.
toxic empathy,
Yeah.
um, is it also kind of bleeds over into letting the clients sometimes walk all over us or
Right.
being overly
Yes.
accommodating
Yes.
with our time, with our personal time. And
Yep.
so I think learning those boundaries as well.
Yep. Yeah. I was just gonna say, it reminds me of boundaries, right? The B word, boundaries. And I've done this a lot with different leaders of saying, okay, let me just write out what things am I okay with and not okay with? Like I've seen this done even with emails of like what constitutes an email when, or I should say with like texts after hours or calls after hours, like
Right. When is
when
that
is
okay?
it a genuine emergency where, yes, I want you calling me at 9 o'clock at night,
Right.
like to really be clear about those boundaries. And then the hardest thing I see too is, speaking from experience too, is you set the boundaries, you maybe even communicate the boundaries, but then it's like you yourself have to say that call still comes in at 9 o'clock.
Hold the boundary.
Yeah, you have to then not answer the phone, wait till tomorrow,
Mhm.
all the things,
Or say no.
or
Yeah.
say no, yeah,
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah,
may
because we
be.
cave and then we pretend like we're a victim. Well, I
Yes,
told them not to text me after 9 and they texted me at
yeah,
9:30
right,
and then I answered it. I'm like, well, then you didn't hold your boundary. That's on
right,
you. It's not on
yeah.
them. You're
It's
training them that if they want to text you after 9, you're going to answer.
yeah,
And it's difficult to do that, but then you
right,
have to decide, well, then if I'm breaking my own boundary, I can't be angry about it.
yes. Which is that's tough, in the coaching world to kind of put the
Yeah.
mirror up for them to see it for what it
Yeah.
is, and if they can hear it and take it and adjust.
I think sometimes with new leaders too, when you're talking about that, like the hospital calling them or texting
Mm,
them after hours, trying to suck them back into the hospital when they're on their day off. I think
sure.
sometimes that idea about setting a boundary is uncomfortable to us because of the people pleasing and we're worried
Yep.
about our team and we want to be a good
Yep.
leader and all the
Yep.
things. But I sometimes talk to leaders about if you're a strong leader and you set strong boundaries, your
Mm-hmm.
team is going to pick up. Your team is going to know that they're trusted, know that you're
Mm-hmm.
not worried about the decisions that they're going to make,
Yep.
knowing that if they make a decision, even if it's the one you wouldn't have made, that you'll have their
Right.
back
Yep.
and that they want to be helpful to you. They want you to
Yeah.
have your
To
day
feel
off.
that kind of empowered.
Right.
Right.
And when you're
Yeah.
constantly taking them off the hook by answering the questions
Mm.
yourself, they don't have that empowered feeling.
Empowerment. Yeah.
You
Right.
know, I use
100%.
this example a lot. I had a receptionist that was very high S on the disc, which means she was
Okay.
very much a people pleaser and wanted to keep the
Sure.
peace, a
Yep.
little bit insecure. And so she would
Uh-huh.
always come to me all the time and ask me if she could schedule an appointment.
Right.
Dr. Capel, can I schedule this appointment at 4:30, blah, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And I got to the point where I was finally like, I said to her, I'm like, I don't know. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to see the appointments. Your job is to make the appointments. So if
Yeah.
you think it's a good decision to make this appointment for me, then
Uh-huh.
I'm going to trust that that's the right decision. And if
Yep.
you want to send them to the ER because you think it's not a good decision, then you send them to the ER. But
Mm-hmm.
that's why you're at the
Yep.
front desk and I'm not. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to keep
Good.
gently encouraging her that look, no matter what you
Hey,
decide, because I
yeah.
know you've been trained, you know what I would be upset with and what I wouldn't be.
Right. Yep.
I need to
Yep.
trust you to do this job because you can't come to me or why
Mm-hmm.
do I have you? I might as well just answer the phone
Yeah.
myself.
Right.
So it was a kind of a gentle training with her, but she got to the point where
Uh-huh.
she was just like, she'd make the decision. And sometimes she'd still come to me and say, I booked you an appointment at, a double book at
Yeah.
such and such because she was a little worried.
Sure.
But I would always say, okay, Joe, thanks a lot for doing that,
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
was she was just a little bit insecure. And eventually she was like, oh, okay, I know Dr. Capel trusts me and I'm just going
Yeah.
to do my job now.
Yeah.
And I think that we forget that
Huge.
it's good for them as well as it is for us to
Right.
have that responsibility.
Yeah. And with that, what I love, I'd say call it empowerment, call it, I'm constantly saying, where can you give your team ownership that
Yes,
they feel the weight of the success or the failure or
right.
that there's an equal, that just sense
They have a
of
stake in the
ownership.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah, that they're
right. So
actually
that's a
responsible for the
great
way we're doing.
example. And
Yeah.
I think that is hard as leaders. I see, seems like it's either feast or famine with leaders in terms of like delegating, of like,
Yes,
some people are like, it's all yours, and they're like, I'm good over here. And
right.
then a lot of them are like pulling teeth to get them
Micromanaging.
to, right. But
Right.
the more they can release, it does that. It gives them that empowerment, that ownership, which is what you want.
Right. And it helps you with the boundary setting.
Mm-hmm.
I always say
Yep.
when I used to I'd come to Florida or go to Florida for vacation to visit my mom for a week when I
Yeah.
owned the hospital. And she would worry because nobody was calling me. She'd be like,
Right.
how's the hospital doing today? And I'd be like, I don't know. Well, have
Yeah.
you heard from them? I'm like, nope. I said, I don't expect to hear from them unless the place is on fire.
Yeah. No, I was gonna
If
say
it's
no news
burning
is good
down,
news. It means you've done your job.
well,
Yeah.
and that's what I would tell her, but it would worry her. And I'd be like, no, I expect them to be able to handle it when I'm not there. I have the
Yeah.
doctors that can handle it. I have the manager that can
Yep.
handle it. I have the team that can handle it. And if I don't hear anything for a week and I show up and there's three problems that happened last week, that's okay. I'll
Yeah.
deal with it. But
Right.
better to have my vacation and not worry about them than to have
Yeah.
that. I wonder how they're doing and what's happening, and I want them to call me every day. Um,
Yep.
I think if you can, and it's hard, it's not easy to just
Sure.
be away and trust
And
everybody
like, yeah,
and
I
hope the place
imagine.
isn't
Right.
burning down.
But
But
then to me, what a great sign that if there was a problem too, you want them to problem solve, not have to, what's,
what would Dr. Capel do?
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like
yeah,
a good sign. That's maybe a great marker that when you're on PTO as a leader, is your team calling you all the time? Are they not calling you out of fear? Like,
yeah, yeah.
it's
That's
maybe
true
a
too.
good indicator of your level of have you released that ownership, that empowerment?
Yeah,
Uh,
because if on my day off somebody called me, it was usually for a really good reason.
yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
Dr. Capel, I'm sorry to, call you on your day off, but Mrs. So-and-so's on the phone and you
Mhm.
didn't write up your record or well, like whatever.
Yeah.
And they had
Yeah.
a good reason. And I was like, oh,
Yep.
that's on me.
Appreciate,
Because
yeah. Appreciate
yeah,
you
I
calling.
didn't write
Right.
a notes that you could really read and know what I wanted to do. So,
Yep.
I think that and not automatically getting the other thing I see a lot with leaders is they want to have their day off. They want to be left
Mm-hmm.
alone.
Mm-hmm.
But then when people do call them, they're immediately upset or mad rather
Yeah.
than just like, okay, why are they calling me? Are they
Yep.
uncertain of what to do? Have I trained them properly?
Right. That's
Have I expressed my boundary to them that I don't want to be
mm-hmm.
called on my day off?
Yep.
Or am I
Yep.
sending mixed signals? I think
Yep.
that's important too to think about is what role are you playing
Yes.
in that,
Yep.
in that
Which that
exchange?
would be the other thing that I would say across the board I always see a lot of is just all things communication. Have you set the expectations across the board on, yeah, PTO expectations, on boundary expectations, on just all things communication? Have you trained them up right? Um,
Do you have
the
solid
big thing.
hospital rules so they know
Yep.
when we schedule the emergencies, when we don't, when we schedule the surgeries, when we don't? So they're not constantly coming to ask you when
Yep.
you order things, do you have somebody handling that?
Hmm.
Do they know, how to make those decisions? Because sometimes if they're bugging you all the time, it's not their fault, it's your fault. They're
Yes.
a
Yeah.
leader, right?
Well, the many sayings out there of, as the leader goes, so goes the team. I've heard the team takes on the personality of the leader. So you can kind of see your strengths, weaknesses,
Sure.
probably, and then you can see how the team might go or not go, or yeah, makes
Well,
sense.
and that's a really good point that you just kind of made that might be worth talking about is as
Mm.
the leader, how do you understand yourself better so you
Yep.
can deal with your faults? Because we all have them, right? Like I
Right.
know mine
Right.
pretty well. I know what I do well and I know what I don't do
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
And then how do we translate that to the team so they can help us with those weaknesses that we have
Mm.
or understand them so they know why we do some of the things that we do,
Yep.
because you're pretty well versed in the personalities, the DISC
Yeah.
training and the Enneagram and
Yep.
getting to know yourself through those.
Yeah, for sure. I'd say those are a great tool. I use, as you know, it's called Cloverleaf, and it
Hmm.
is a partnership I'm with that gives you access to many personality assessments, the DISC, the Enneagram,
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, many of them. And I like it because it gives you not just the DISC where you're, the D or
The
the I or
box.
whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it kind of gives you more breadth of the depth of who you are. those strengths and weaknesses for, so to me, for sure, if I'm like starting coaching with any leader, that's kind of out of the gate. We'll tackle some of those assessments to really identify those strengths, weaknesses. How well do you know yourself? But to me as well, to especially if you're out of the gate leading a team, have people under you, whether it's two or 20, your team to me is always a great mirror of you. And so if you want to, how well your team is doing, or if they're having areas that they're underperforming, first and foremost, to me, it's always a look in the mirror. How am I affecting this? Because to me, leadership is first and foremost just influence, right? You're influencing them one
Yes.
way or another. And so, how intentional are you being with that influence? Do you need to, if your personality is a bit chaotic and all over the place, can you channel that person on your team that's maybe highly organized, leverage their strength in that bit. So you can kind
Mhm.
of just be here, there, and everywhere and do your kind of maybe charismatic, thing
Thing.
as a
Hmm.
leader,
Yeah.
and lead the team that way and leverage those strengths among your team. And so um, it can be tough, though, as you know, to really be able to look in the mirror and see it for what it is and take full ownership, responsibility to say, yeah, you might have a bad apple or two that's maybe needs to go, or a toxic employee that's not your issue, maybe per
Right.
se. But yeah, I don't know if you've had success in allowing people to really look in the mirror. It's tough, I think.
Well, I think certain people are really resistant to that because it isn't fun. You
Mm,
talked about the clover leaf, and I'm on it
yeah,
with you because we work
yeah,
together. And it sends you a email message. I don't know
yeah,
how often, every few days or something.
yeah,
And it'll say, be careful of
yeah,
whatever. And mine will say something like, be careful of being distracted by wanting to do too many things today,
yeah,
because that's my personality. Like I have
yeah.
that kind of, I want to do too many things, and I'm
Hmm.
not super great at detail. And I
Sure.
know that about myself. And so now that I know that about myself, I don't
Hmm.
shame myself for it. I
Yep.
just acknowledge it. And when I'm leading a group of people, like I led my hospital, I had to be
Mhm.
sure that I had some detailers there.
Yep.
And they had to understand that I wasn't, I'm a results person. I'm a drive it to the end, get it done fast. I'm more interested in it being done than being done well. And
Sure.
so, that's kind of my base personality, even though I can be detailed. And so
Yep.
just being okay with that and not shaming yourself for it and be like, oh, that's my lack of detail. That's why I screwed that up.
Great point.
Or I should have paid more attention to that. And
Yep.
that's my natural tendency. So I'm working on it, but I'm also not hating myself for it,
It's like full circle to the empathy conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Um, because that's a great point, because it kind of goes back into that I want to be able to do all things really well.
Mm-hmm.
And to
Yeah.
almost let yourself off the hook that like, hey, don't because I've heard it before too. Almost like don't even work on your weaknesses to an extent where
Yeah, it
you're
is a
like
saying. Yeah, I think John Maxwell or
focused on the
somebody says
strengths.
that. Work
Yeah.
on your strengths because that's
And
really the only thing that you can get better at.
right. So I think there's probably a good tension there back and forth with that. But it does. I mean, you naturally kind of like people often marry their opposite. You
Yes.
want to
My husband for
hire
sure.
hire your opposite as well on your team, where you
Yeah.
leverage those weaknesses, or just not even weaknesses. I think it's
Right.
just personality, and like you say, why are we beating ourselves up over something that's just not how we're wired, or
Yeah,
not?
and not
Yeah,
use it as an excuse either. Like it's not okay
yeah,
for me to
and
say, well, I didn't do my books this week or
right,
my
right,
books this month because I hate detail. Like I
yep,
would have to sit down
yep.
and be detailed with my books. I didn't love it, but
Uh-huh.
I could do it. And so accepting your weaknesses, but and working on them so you can get better, but also not beating
Mhm.
yourself up and using your
Mhm.
strengths more to manage your weaknesses, I
Yep.
guess,
Yep.
is kind of
And
the way I
I
look
would
at it.
say too, where I see back to kind of full circle burnout is where I often see burnout, stress, just energy depletion happening is when leaders are having to operate too much in their weaknesses.
Yes.
So, right,
Yes, it's
if we were to
stressful.
say like, Dr. Julie, you have to do all this detail stuff today, right? By the end of the day, you're done.
Oh no, I would hate
Um,
it. Like if you put me in an office and shut the door all day and told me to work on bookkeeping and emails and all
yeah,
that, I'd be screaming by the end of it because I hated that. I wanted to see what was going on in the hospital. I wanted to be out
yeah,
with
yeah,
so I
yep,
think that's so true. It's like don't push yourself. Like kind of
mhm,
know how long can I be focused? If it's an
yeah,
hour, then I'll sit
yep,
there for an hour and work on the books and then I'll go see what's going on in the hospital and then I'll go back.
yep,
But having grace for yourself and not beating yourself up for that
hmm,
because I remember phone calls with my dad because he was kind of my accountant bookkeeper when I was running my
okay,
hospital. And I would do all the books, get them all ready,
sure,
and then I'd send it to him to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. And I remember being on the phone with him and him just like drilling down into the tiniest of looking for a penny, looking for a dime or whatever that I made a mistake. And it was really difficult for me to like focus on that because it wasn't my
yeah,
strength, but it was
huh,
his strength. And so,
yeah,
just having the
I
patience to
love
be like,
that,
that's why he's here to keep me accountable,
right,
you know.
yep,
Yeah.
family business, I love it,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's an example of how you can push yourself too far and then
hmm,
hate your leadership or hate your
right,
hospital or hate your life
right,
because you're
it's a great
trying to
point,
do too many things for too many people.
yep,
Yeah.
hmm,
Love that. So, let's round out this subject because we were thinking
yeah,
about talking about hospital cultures, but maybe we'll come back and do that
sure,
another
sure,
podcast. Let's talk about like solutions for this. Like if you're feeling
hmm,
burned out, if you're feeling stressed, and we've kind of talked about a lot of solutions, but maybe we can drill down and say like here's a place to start. And
hmm,
if you're feeling really overwhelmed, burned out, stressed out
hmm,
about being in your job right now, what
yep,
specific things can you do to kind of get started and moving away from that?
yeah. I I'd say the first thing that I often see is everyone, and I get it. Everyone just kind of goes to, I need a vacation. I need time off. I need to give me a weekend, right?
Right.
They kind of go to the big chunky blocks of space of
Yeah, or I
just
want to
get me
quit my
out of
job.
here.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Right.
quitting. I'm
It's
quitting my
kind of like
job.
the drastic, yeah.
Sure.
Which
Yeah,
there's maybe a time and a place for that.
sure.
And I think Brene Brown talks about how the difference between overwhelm, I'm gonna forget it here, but basically kind of saying if you're so overwhelmed, you can't even formulate a to-do list, you can't even get your bearings. Like you do need a full-on break. You need to take time out, right?
Right.
Take the weekend, whatever it might
Yeah,
be, to get your bearings a bit. So there is that piece.
sure.
But I do feel like the other piece is really identifying, can you create a day-to-day, week-to-week life that feels life-giving and sustainable, and it isn't fun or maybe as attractive, but to really start small.
Yes,
Like
like a little baby step.
where are your biggest wins? Like what's
Yeah.
gonna, if this is costing me, what can I do that's gonna give me more back?
Hmm.
And so that's usually where I start with people is what right now feels heaviest, what right now feels like this thing is consuming all my mental space, emotional space.
Right.
At night, it's keeping me up, those type of things. And usually, there's one or two things that will come to mind
If you drill down, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's in the hospital.
Right.
But starting there, I find of just like maybe it's having that hard conversation is often one thing that's it's amazing how much some of those things are taking up brain space,
Hmm.
mental space,
Yes.
and if we would just action on it, that we could have saved ourselves a headache of a week-long headache, right?
Yeah. And sometimes it's a
Um,
small thing that you could do, right?
yeah,
You're just
right.
afraid to do it. There's some fear
Yep,
there that you think that
yep,
something bad's going to happen if you take an action. Yeah.
yep.
It's so true.
Um, so yeah, that's usually where I start is what feels heaviest. Um, and then the other piece is what am I doing consistently that's taking even just a little energy drain, right? That's maybe it's like death by a thousand cuts.
Right.
Because usually, yeah, if there's a big thing that's just causing us stress, anxiety, we can maybe tackle that and dive into it. But then I feel like all these death by a thousand cuts that are, little things of like, hey, maybe every Monday, Tuesday, my office manager goes and gets my kid from daycare. Right, or I don't know if that's a realistic example.
Yeah.
But
Whatever.
little things like that of maybe, these days I'm not responsible for that thing or my kid getting picked up and right, I'm utilizing carpool more, whatever it might
Right.
be. But to identify those things where it just gives me either a little time, energy, or attention back to
Right.
myself.
Yeah.
And those can be, I think, harder to identify. Because again, you feel like I got to do all the things. I got to do every carpool. I got to do every bake
Hmm.
sale, and I gotta, and like,
Yeah. I'm not a good
oh,
mom if I don't do everything, right? That's what we think.
mhm,
Or I don't cook real meals every day
right,
or
yeah,
whatever, right?
yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's
And
driving you crazy.
so, kind of a exercise I might have someone do with that is to kind of go through your week to week or in a week and say, with some of the main consistent things, what is this costing me? What is this activity I have to do costing me? What is this? And there's going to be some staples in there that probably have to do as a mom, as a wife, or whatever you might be. Um, but there are things that, they find that we all can find that are like, man, it's costing me a lot, right? And can I ask for help? Can I just flat out say no, not this season?
Hmm.
Um, Even though I've done it for the past 3 years or whatever it might be. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I know it with my own overwhelm and anxiety when it kicks in. A lot of the questions that I have to ask myself are about, do you really want to do this or do you
Mm,
think you have to do it?
that's
Because
good.
the I
Yep.
have to is heavy pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the people pleasing and that's
Yep.
the, making
Yep.
everybody in the hospital happy and being there every day and making all the clients happy. Like those are the have tos.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a lot of our list is I have to. And then so if you
Yep.
take each item, which is kind of what you're saying, and say,
Yep.
this is costing me, do I have to keep doing it?
Mm-hmm.
And do I want to?
Right.
So if I
Which
can just
is
turn the have to into, do I really, really want to do
right.
this?
Right.
And then I'm like, really, I don't. Like, do you
Yeah.
really like cleaning bathrooms? No. So is it worth having somebody come in every other week and clean my house for 150 bucks or whatever they charge?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, yes. Because when
Yeah.
my kids were little, that's what I did. I'm like, I hate house
Oh yeah.
cleaning. And that's
Right.
something I could gladly give up.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
it's not
And
always
and
easy to
then
do.
the next piece, which you've already talked about, but is so huge, is letting yourself off the hook for then feeling guilty.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
Oh, you're
then
the housekeeper? Yeah.
right, right. Well, because yeah, then it's like you give yourself that gift of
Right.
time back and all the things.
Yes.
But then it's like it's not a gift because now you're feeling guilty
Yes.
that you have that service. So you're still at a loss, right?
Yeah, I talked to somebody I was coaching last week or the week before, and she was frustrated because she couldn't exercise, and she'd always been an
Uh,
athlete, and she was just
oh.
really having a hard time exercising. So we
Hmm.
got to talking about it, and she said, "Well, I used to go to the gym." And I said, "Well, why don't you still go to the gym?" And she said, "Well, I don't have time, and I have to pick up the kids, and I want to spend time with the kids." And I'm like, "Well, does the gym have a daycare?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, we used to go there a lot, and the kids love it." And I was
Hmm.
like, "So why don't you just take the kids there? After you pick them up from school, why don't you just all go to the gym for an hour and you work
Right.
out?" And she was like, "Well, because I would feel guilty. Like I'm taking them out of daycare to put them back in daycare."
Sure,
And I
sure.
said, "Yeah, but if they love it, like if they
Right.
love the daycare at the gym and they would want to
Uh-huh.
go there,
Right.
is that guilt really warranted? Like, why are you guilting yourself over that?"
Uh-huh.
And so we really got to dig into that. And she was like, "I bet they would be really happy if I said we were going to the gym once a week or twice a
Right.
week. And they would love that." And I'm like, they might, because maybe there's rock climbing there. Maybe they can run
Yeah.
around and get rid of
Oh,
some of
yeah.
their energy while you're
Yeah,
working
exactly.
out. So I
Exactly.
think sometimes we forget that our guilt keeps us trapped
Hmm. Yeah.
in the
Well,
thought
and
that if
I've
we
I've
don't do
seen
it
it.
right,
I've seen it too, even I think that's a great exercise is like where are the shoulds or I have tos versus the wants. I've seen it as well happen where that when they really look at it, it's on their schedule as a should, but they actually want to do it when it comes down to it. And it's just the complete mindset shift
yes,
of, oh no, I do enjoy this. I do like this, but somehow it's become like a, oh, but I have to do
a
this. So there's
task,
like a drain on it when
right?
really it's life-giving. It's just that,
It's a mind shift. It's
yeah,
training
it's
your
just,
brain to think differently,
yep,
which is why I love life coaching so much because that's what it's all about. It's like, how do I
yeah.
train my brain to think differently about certain
Mhm.
things so I can let go of some of this negative emotion that I'm carrying around for no reason?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Good shout out to coaching for.
yes, that we have to end on
I
that
mean, I mean, even
note.
that conversation you just had, I mean, it's that verbal processing that you're not
Well,
gonna,
she never even thought of it because when I said, "Well, how do the kids like the gym?" And she goes, "Oh, they love it." And I
yeah,
was like, "And you're
connect
feeling
the
guilty
dots.
for taking them there. Does that make sense?" And she's like, "No." I
Yeah,
said, "Maybe they'll
yeah,
like that more than they'll like going home and you
yeah,
just
right.
spending time with them and, making a snack for them or whatever."
Yeah, yeah, and
So,
then
yeah,
everybody feels better. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So I think
yeah,
just kind of questioning the narrative in your head that,
yeah,
why am I feeling guilty about this? And is it real?
yeah,
Or is it just my brain telling me a lie?
right.
You know?
Yeah, one
Okay.
more thing you made me think of too
Yeah, definitely. Let's make
is,
sure we get it all in.
well, this is probably a full day podcast on this one, but
I know. We can make it
um,
as long as we want.
okay. I see oftentimes, and oh, I think we're all guilty of this, is you've maybe said no to something or you have time back somewhere, but then you fill it with Facebook scrolling, or you fill it with something that is more numbing out or more not actually like refilling your cup or like something that you enjoy or something that's just going to actually give you a breath a bit.
Right.
Um, because it's like, oh, I have this time, go plop on the couch or go just whatever. And you don't actually like fill it with something that's gonna give you back a bit.
Replenish you. Yeah.
And we're all guilty of that.
Sure. And you just have to be careful of it. You have to notice
Yep.
it, you know, when you're
Yeah.
doing that, when you're numbing out by eating, you know,
Yeah.
by watching
Guilty.
television, by,
Guilty.
yeah, I'm the same
My,
way, like
my mine
scrolling
is sports podcast. Just I can find. Oh, let me find
for
the
hours on end.
this team right now. Like
Yeah.
I guess there's
Yeah. So
worse
just,
vices, but
yeah. But we all do. And that's another point. It's like, okay, we all do these things.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not like because we're life coaches or because
yeah. We
we
got it
have
all
more
figured out.
experience that we're not
Yeah.
human. Like we
Hmm.
all have these things and we're all working on something. But the point is that having the mindset that you can change it if you want to change it. And if you accidentally spend an hour scrolling through Facebook one day or Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're on
Yeah.
right now,
And I beat yourself up.
forgive yourself
Yeah.
and be like,
Yeah.
oh shoot, I just spent an
I
hour.
need a break. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I get sucked into the social media because I'm checking on my kids now that I'm
Oh,
older.
sure.
I'm like, what did my daughter post today? What did
What
my
are they
son post
doing?
today?
Yeah. What are they not
Yeah, and
telling
like
me
I can
about?
kind of
Yeah.
see what they're doing today. But
Yeah.
then instead of checking and then getting off, then you kind of get
Yeah.
sucked
Yeah.
in.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, the algorithm's smart. It knows what to feed me, that's
It's
for sure.
constantly showing me baby animals and little
Ah,
kids,
right.
and because that's what I like to
Yeah.
watch.
It knows I love the puppy videos.
Exactly. And then you get a bunch of those. So,
Yeah.
is there anything that we've missed that we want to say to kind of wrap this up? And then for sure, I want you to come back because I want to talk about
Yeah.
hospital culture. I want to keep talking about
Right.
how valuable coaching is for veterinarians and veterinary leaders and
Yep.
all of that.
Yep.
Anything that we missed that we could quickly
Man.
sum up?
Yeah.
We've said a
I
lot.
I think there's a podcast I listen to, and it always ends with "Take good care of yourself."
Yes,
And
that's
I
so
just
important,
like
right?
I'll say that a lot on coaching, like, hey, don't forget, take good care of yourself, and just that like permission almost to
Right.
like, hey, take good care of yourself,
Yeah,
whatever
and
that
really think about what
looks
that
like.
is.
Yeah.
Is sometimes we're not aware of what we're
Hmm.
doing or not doing to care for ourselves. So what does
Yeah.
that really mean? What does self-care mean to you?
Well, here's another podcast idea is I had this conversation with one of my friends the other day of like, wait, I don't even know what I want. What good question.
I did
What
that
do
a
I
lot
want?
when I did that a lot when I was getting ready to sell my hospital. I'm like, I don't want to retire, but I have no idea.
Yeah,
Because my whole goal in life was to own a hospital and raise kids
sure.
and then I got to that and I was like, oh, now what do I do? Because I still have life left, you know. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's a big scary thing to think about
yeah,
and you really need
yeah.
to do like what is it that I actually want? Yeah.
Mm,
And coaches can help you with that too. So,
yes.
okay, tell everybody
Well,
where they
thank
can
you.
find you if they want to ask
Sure.
a question or find
Yeah,
out more about what you
you
do.
got it.
And
So,
then
yep,
where can
my
they find you?
website is mikaelakate.com, Mikaela Kate.com, and email releasing your voice at gmail.com. And yeah, on the socials and I love
Look
to
for her
talk more.
everywhere.
Yeah, all
And
the
she
things.
now loves
Yeah.
veterinarians and she now loves dogs because
Yes.
she has a
And I'll
dog.
talk to you about my dog and sports and well, yeah,
I
I
love that. Well,
appreciate
I
you
didn't know you
having
were such a
me.
sports person, so that's fun to know.
Yeah, we're in I mean it's a wonderful time of year because we have as of today, the Olympics are in the thick of Olympics
When does the
starting.
Olympics start?
I think actually our women's hockey team plays this morning.
Oh, wow, really? Okay. I knew
And we
it was
got
coming up. I just didn't know when.
basketball going on, March
Super
Madness,
Bowl.
Super Bowl this
Oh,
week.
wow. So
Oh,
you're all in.
life is good.
That's awesome. That's what
All
refills
the
your cup.
distractions if I want to numb out
No, but that's what you like.
I know
So,
it's
so for
yeah,
you, it's
yeah,
fulfilling. So,
it's good.
all
Yeah.
right. Well, it's been really
I
fun
appreciate
talking
it.
to you. I wish we'd have done this sooner, but we're going to keep doing it.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Michaela will certainly be back if she has time, and
Yeah.
we'll do some more stuff. And if you like what you're hearing, share this podcast with people that you think need it. And anybody that needs coaching,
Yeah.
reach out to myself or Michaela, and we'll tell you what it's all about. It's really good for you.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
we're going to say take good care of yourself. And I always say have a beautiful week. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Michaela.
Bye.